Yeah. 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 Okay.
Hello and welcome to Afrospace. My name is Nyasha Grace and I am joined by my co-host, that's Adetunji Omotola. Afrospace is a Pan-African weekly show that we come to profile to you what's happening on the continent. We profile what's happening politically, we profile what's happening economically, and we also profile what's happening socially. Today is a special broadcast and allow us at Afrospace firstly to congratulate the great nation of Cote d'Ivoire, whose independence is today, the 7th of August, 2020, as they reach their 60th year of independence. At Afrospace, we've taken time to create this event that is honoring and celebrating 8 African countries that are reaching their 60th year of independence in the year of 2020, in the month of August, which also is the African Women's Month here in South Africa. And so we want to congratulate all the nations represented here and those who couldn't make it for this event. I will mention the 8 countries that we're celebrating in the month of August, and that's Benin, Niger, Cote d'Ivoire, Central African Republic, Congo-Brazzaville, Chad, and Gabon. So allow me to welcome you, Your Excellency, amongst our distinguished guests who are joining us for this program. Welcome to Afrospace. The event is 8 at 60, and we are privileged and honored to have you this morning.
Right. Now, Afrospace, basically, it's important for us to talk about Afrospace for a minute. Afrospace was conceived during the COVID-19 lockdown. We're very proud that we have been able to interview at least 12 Africans of repute across many genres, from human trafficking to even the ambassador who has joined us again today, Ambassador of South Africa, of Ethiopia to South Africa, Dr. Shiferaw Teklemariam, who came to give us an understanding of what is happening in Ethiopia, especially around the Nile, and also in terms of the dam that Ethiopia wants to build, which is the Grand Ethiopia Renaissance Dam. So we're glad to have Ambassador Shiferaw Teklemariam with us today. But of course, we also have, at short notice, been able to get representatives from Gabon, Dr. Laurence Ndong. We've also got a gentleman from Paris joining us, Mr. Abdelkerim Koundougoumi. Thank you for coming. At short notice, that is very wonderful. The spirit of Africa is rising all the time. We're also very happy to have Mr. Angama, who is, surname is Calixte, who's been with the Ivorian Embassy in South Africa for over a decade, doing great work, promoting Ivorian culture, which is very rich, and even leaning into fashion and music as well. So we thank him for coming. Of course, we also thank our sponsor. Without their support, today would have been slightly difficult for us, and that is Mr. Richard Kabea, who is the Director and Chief Sales Officer for a company called Grey Dot Telecom Africa. And of course, we're waiting for the arrival of Dr. Ladislas Akwesi, who is the chairman of the Pan-African Business Forum. So today we're going to be revealing opportunities in these countries as they turn 60 in the month of August. And we're very proud to have them with us. But before we can do that, we'll hand over to our sponsors. So Nyasha, please do invite Mr. Richard Kabea to make a presentation for our viewers and our guests.
All right. Thank you, Adetunji. Just to give you a profile, Richard Kabea is the owner and the director at Grey Dot Telecommunications. His passion is technology, business, and customer satisfaction, with over 25 years experience in telecoms across different sectors, which include broadcasting, financial institutions, cable operators, telco providers, satellite operators, system integrators, and internet service providers. He's worked for multinationals, which include Microsoft, SAP, Verizon. He's worked at MTN and Vodacom, and all this before he embarked on his own journey to start and found his telecoms company, which is Grey Dot Telecoms, who are our proud sponsors here for this event at 8 at 60. And they were established in 2015, and they have grown significantly and vastly, having their operations now in 6 countries in Africa, and I think the 7th being Nigeria, that is currently in the works. Mr. Richard Kabeya, thank you so much for being our sponsors for this event and for joining us as well. If you could please give us your opening remarks, please go ahead and unmute your mic and give us your presentation this morning.
Thank you, Nyesha, and thanks to you colleagues on the call, on the conference. Well, we're talking about Africa, and I think after 60 years of independence, I believe it's time to mostly reflect upon the continent. Celebration is one thing, but we need to reflect and find out where do we stand as a continent. Well, if I have to look at the state of Africa today, I think it's characterized by a sense of greed. Why do I talk about greed? It's because I think, maybe I'm wrong, but I think we're not trading enough with ourselves. We are not collaborating enough with ourselves. We look to other continents as a source of import and source of acquisition of all sorts of things, including technology, where we sit in a place where we have skills, very high skills, we have competency, we have a human capital that we need to reckon with. So I'm just one of the people that believe we need to do a lot more and start trading aggressively and working hard to do what we call business exchange. So that's my comment so far.
Okay. Now, let me introduce Dr. Ambassador Dr. Teklemariam to come and share with us, his thoughts. But before I do that, let me just give you his profile, which is very impressive. And I believe that, to have such an ambassador in South Africa in a year that President Ramaphosa is chairing the African Union is very good news for Africa. And Dr. Shiferaw Teklemariam, his background is in healthcare. He's got a master's degree in sector management. He's also got a master's degree in social health science, as well as a doctorate degree in health. His experience is very broad. He started from the regions, the Southern Nationalities regions. He was there for 13 years in the Regional Health Bureau. And of course, he moved up to become a state minister in 1998 in the region as well. And then from there, he moved on to the Federal Affairs Ministry in the program planning and implementation part of that ministry. And then later, Dr. Teklemariam became, he was a minister in the environmental, forest and weather change, where he was dealing with issues around the green economy. And he was also an international moderator. But today he's wearing the hat of Ambassador Plenipotentiary of Ethiopia to South Africa. And interestingly, he's also responsible for other countries, smaller countries within the SADC region. So with those words, Dr. Ambassador Shiferaw Teklemariam, welcome to our event 8 at 60. Please give us your opening remarks, sir.
Thank you so much, Adetunji, and also Naisha, and also my colleagues who are at this very conference. I fully agree with what Richard echoed. And a positive note, Africa is full of potentials, be it with its natural resources and also be it with human capital, particularly with the youth population. Now the matter is to transform these abundant resources, as well as the huge youth population, in addition to the 1 billion population, into productivity in its own right. And at the same time, as we celebrate, I would like to say congratulations for all of the countries of the 60s in this year of Africa. Of course, the issues which we may need to discuss further is that what are the impacts of colonialism, first of all, and also why we needed to fight against colonialism, because this all come with a big sacrifications, and nothing was given as a free gift. It was like the results of the struggle for independence. And as my brother Richard mentioned, now the subsequent issues would be through the AU leadership as well as through the member states engagement. We should definitely look for way forward, and in doing so address properly the reason and the causes of those struggles, and also exactly where we are today, particularly comparing with our own potentials, be it the natural resources or the population we do have. Thank you so much, and back to you, Naisha.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for that. Allow me at this point to introduce for our next presentation, Dr. Laurence Ndong. Just to read out her profile, she is a doctor in sciences in education in didactic of sciences. She is a politician, she is a teacher, she's a researcher. She campaigns for the respect of sovereignty for the people of Gabon in particular, and also for Africa in general. And she's also an activist for good governance for all our African nations. She is author of Gabon, Provoking Change for Atramenta editions, as well as an author for Gabon, Pourquoi j'accuse, which is for the Lahamatin editions. She is fighting dictatorship. Dr. Laurence, thank you so much for coming and being on this 8 at 60 event. Kindly unmute your mic and give us your presentation.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Adetuji. Thank you, all of my colleagues in this program. Thank you for receiving me. Everybody knows that Africa has a great potential. We have material roles, we have the young population, and this potential has to be transformed to well-being for the population, because in Africa we have this paradox. We have most of the richest, most of the material roles of the world, but our population is poor and among the poorest population in the world. So we have to fight with this, to correct this paradox. And I think since the independence, the problem we have in Africa is the bad governance by those who are in charge at the head of our countries. We have to deal with this bad governance, with the corruption, with the non-respect of the sovereignty of the people. Every time the elections are rigged, and we have to fight with those non-respect of the population by their own leaders.
Okay. Now, let me go to the gentleman who today is a special day for his country, Mr. Angama Calixte. And Mr. Angama Calixte, you look so debonair in your jacket and your handkerchief, and today is your special day. But before you say a few words, let me just introduce you again. I mean, you have been at the Ministry of Culture, the Embassy, making moves in the culture space, promoting your country. I can see your beautiful flag there. And you've been doing this for over a decade in South Africa. We know that South Africa is also a country that promotes culture. There's a vibrant arts and culture ministry. So, and your profile is significant because for us at Afrospace, we believe that African culture does not get much promotion. We see a lot of American culture, but we're glad for you to come and share with us today and our special guest your thoughts on Cote d'Ivoire for 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a very good opportunity for Cote d'Ivoire to be part of this conference, this web conference. And I'm also very glad to have been invited by you and your media to represent my country. The issue of our African country independence, since most of our country, we got our independence from a colonial country like France, like UK, particularly in Ivory Coast. Our country got its independence from France. And since then, I think today is the 60th year we are celebrating our independence. And the big challenge, the big issues are what we have done, what we have succeeded since we got this independence in terms of economy, in terms of culture, in terms of industry, in terms of infrastructure. These are the big challenge we face. And we think I'm glad to be part of this conference and to be able to present the opportunity for Ivory Coast, our successes, and also our challenge for the next coming years. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Angama. At this point, also allow me to now introduce to you Mr. Abdelkerim Koundougoumi. He is director.
Shall I go ahead with the presentation of Ivory Coast?
Oh, all right. Sorry, did I cut you off? Yes, please. You may go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right.
Okay, so basically, when we got our independence in 1960, the country has been ruled by a very, very high-profile politician, our former president, first president, Mr. Felix Houphouët-Boigny, that we call the father of the nation. For more than 3 decades, Felix Houphouët-Boigny has been our president until 1993. So for 30 years, under his leadership, our country has got a very successful period of development. And this period has been called the Ivorian Miracle, because during this period, from 1960 to 1985, we got a lot of development programs of development in the field of agriculture, of infrastructure. And Houphouët-Boigny, our first president, promotes also a vision, the vision of peace, keeping our country in good relationship with the other countries, especially with the colonial country France. And since then, from the independence until 1993, we got a very good, level of development. And Ivory Coast was among the country in West Africa, with Nigeria and Ghana, who are very, at a level, a very good level of development. And to keep this good level of relationship with the world and with Africa, our president created a peace prize, but it's called Felix Houphouët-Boigny International Peace Prize. And in 1991, this prize has been awarded to Nelson Mandela and Frederick de Klerk for the dialogue they initiate to, to deal with the issue of apartheid in South Africa. So basically, Ivory Coast in West Africa is a country, a leading country together with Ghana and Nigeria. This is how I can tell for like presentation. And I also want to underline that our development was based essentially on agriculture, because we have been first producer of many agricultural products like cocoa, like palm oil, like timber, and so. So yes, and now we still, our economy is still based on the agriculture. So we can develop such a during this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much for that presentation. Allow me at this point to introduce our next speaker, and that's Mr. Abdelkerim Koundougoumi, and he is a director for Internet Without Borders, heading up the African desk. He is an activist, an entrepreneur, and also a human rights defender. Mr. Abdelkerim, thank you so much for coming onto Afrospace. Please, could you kindly unmute and give us your opening remarks?
Thank you, Naisha. For me, it's a big honor to be with you. And I want to salute Ambassador, because we need this kind of leader, because leader who take time to speak with young people is a new generation, and leader who listen us. So, Mr. Ambassador, I really appreciate this, and I want to say you thank you, because more of our leader don't have time for our youth, and for this I want to say you thank you. And I want to thank you for this initiative, and to salute all of you there. For me, saying independence for me has no sense. For me, it is end of occupation, because we were occupied. And in Chad especially, the reality of independence is just theoretical. We thought that during this beginning of 16th to now, we thought that the last colonial country, France, is involved in all fields of our country, politically, economically, military, and they are always there. And they decided, or they influence what's happening in our country. So I am not applaud our independence, because we are not independent. In the reality, maybe I am very strong, but this is my opinion. So globally, when you saw the situation of Chad is very bad. We have every time war, civil war, war with Libya, war with Sudan, and we were every time, we had not time to build a really good nation and republic, or a good economy, and to try really to have a nation of international standard nation, I say. So for me, I am not applaud our independence, because we have to be real independence, and we have to build this independence in the reality with our African fellows and other African countries. And this is the first difficulty for us, for me too, now to speak to you. Really, I am using a foreign language to speak to my brother and sister African brothers. And I'm not English spoken, so I am doing my best to try to transmit my opinion, but I cannot really tell what I really deeply think and transmit my emotions and everything. So I cannot do it, but I can do it in African language. And why 60 years after the end of occupation, we still trying to use their language, their tools, and everything that they give us to build something. So I think that this is the first mistake. The first mistake is to use all what they give us after the independence. So I think that Mr. Ambassador can maybe bring our hope or our message is to build Africans' unique language. You told that we can speak in Swahili, in Hausa, everything you want. In every one of African speak, we don't need English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, everything, because those languages continue to make permanent the domination of the colonialism. Because we are divided, Anglophone, Francophone, Hispanophone, Lusophone. No, this is first mistake. So I'm sorry, I'm very angry about this because I see that Africa have a potential. We have everything to success, but we are not moving. This is not our fault. They know, because they said that we are dependent, but they built a very strong hidden system. And they put there to keep us still in colonialism. If you can say no colonialism, everything you need, maybe in Francophone area, we still use money that don't belong to us. Franc CFA is not our money. So how can we build economic system if all economic politics are decided by France or Paris? No.
Okay. Mr. Abdelkerim, thank you so much for your presentation.
Sorry, I was long.
No, that's fine. This is Independence Month for Africa. It's 8 countries and 17 countries will turn 60. Cameroon is already 60. Senegal is 60. Togo is 60. Nigeria will be 60. Somalia will be 60 this year. And we have COVID and we have challenges with our healthcare and infrastructure. So that's why we're having this conversation. So thank you for your presentation. So Nyasha, we're now going to go to question and answer, so you can take it away. I believe that the ambassador to Ethiopia will be answering the first set of questions we have. Nyasha?
All right, Ambassador Teklemariam, I'm going to start with you, and perhaps give us a sense of what, what really is the importance and the meaning of 60 years of independence for these 8 nations that we are celebrating in August. From your perspective, what's the significance of 60 whole years of independence?
Yeah, thank you so much, Naisha and Adetunji again. I would like to appreciate upfront Afrospace for identifying this topic. In fact, this agenda, which is a huge agenda by its own right, to be a discussion point, and I'm sure your voice through Afrospace will reach out to all leaders through various mechanisms to echo after 60 years of independence and as my brother rightly said, where we are today. I think we have to see things of course, in its holistic nature. As I said earlier, the positive note is Africa is starting to get organized through the Africa. It was on the May, as you rightly said, on the May 25th, 1963, it was OAU. Now we come to the level of AU, and in the process, AU created an Agenda 2063, which has about 15 flagship programs. Some of these flagship programs include some of the issues we reflected in this very forum. For example, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, which was to liberate the continent from what you call different kinds of impositions, to stand by itself with a GDP amount of like more than 3 trillion, with a population of 1 billion, is a very, very big market, a very, very big market. And we would like to make sure this go further and then to take us to the important points we discussed earlier. Naisha, it's very important when we are discussing about colonialism we are basically discussing about so many impacts it has created in all of us. Ethiopia being independent in that very scenario, we know when during the fight of Adwa victory in 1990s, what it means exactly. Fighting against, it's not like fighting physically, it's fighting on your mindset, fighting on your character. As my brother rightly said, it's fighting about your identity. You lose your language, you lose your culture, you lose your stories, history, everything. And you lose also your sovereignty. We may be emotional, but we also lose what you call your own decision power. Even today, we may be thinking, as rightly said, we are politically independent, but when you are not economically independent, then the politics comes back again. Of course, we always promote interdependence. No one should be dependent for a number of reasons, but interdependence is well acceptable. So, Nasha, what I would like to reflect is, as my brother says, we, Africa, first, we need to be united. United, we will be stronger. This is our forefathers' thought when they made this OAU and AU a reality. When we are divided, we stay weaker and weaker. In fact, as my brother rightly said, this Anglophone, Francophone type of issues and so on, it's making us a little bit nervous, but we have to come to our mind again and work through our AU member states mechanism, which as rightly now they come up with the Agenda 2063, probably to push on the positive side, because we could not achieve anything by pushing on the negative side. Pushing on the positive side is push the Agenda 2063 to get materialized, to get implemented. There are about 15 flagship programs within the Agenda 2063. If we can achieve, and as we discussed, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, the silencing the guns, creating the same economic space as rightly indicated initially in our thoughts, then those are the ones actually bring Africa's, how do you call it, independence as a whole. What if one of the African member states remain behind with any character, with any standard? That is a cause for the whole Africa to move together to address those issues as well. So my statement, my reflection is, we know what the impact of colonialism is. We know very well. We also know what the way outs are. And institutions like Afrospace, like the gathering which we have here, we know the buttons where to push. I think the button to push is to push our own continental organizations like AU and AU organs, and also our member states, because AU is a member states organization, so that we will have a collective leadership, collective management, collective view, in such a way that we will ensure our own identity, our own sovereignty, and also our own who we are to deliver to the greater majority, to the greater people of the continent, so that to bring every part aspect of it to what we call continental citizens or continental citizenship, in such a way that the Africa we want will be the Africa who we are and who we reside in. Of course, within that framework, we can always have what we call partnership, interdependence in equal fit, not one compromising your own who you are and who you were. No, it shouldn't be that way. Even if we have a challenge, one important point is we Africans, we need to work to our own problems through African solutions. Then everything will be in order and we will be fine. Thank you so much again.
Okay, Ambassador, the next question for you, I'm going to put you in, I'm going to take you back to 1963 because you are from Ethiopia and you have been hosting the African Union for 57 years. 57 years is a very long time. I always say that Robert Mugabe became president at 57, Thabo Mbeki became president at 57. So 57 long years in Addis Ababa. Now, put yourself in 1963. So you imagine that you are Haile Selassie and you are hosting the 32 leaders. And you have from Cote d'Ivoire, you have Ufe Boyan with you in this room. And you have Leon Mba of Gabon. And of course, you have Ubad Maga of Benin. And you have Francois Tombo Baye. Now, if you were in that room, put yourself in that room with these leaders who are from Gabon, Benin, Cote d'Ivoire, and also from Chad. What would you be telling them as we are in this situation today? How would Ethiopia deepen trade with these 4 countries that are with us today on this conference? How would you deepen trade with them, given that the GDP of the GDP of Chad is just $11 billion, Benin is $10 billion, Gabon is $16 billion, and of course, Cote d'Ivoire, which is the biggest of the lot, is 43 billion, and you guys have in Ethiopia over almost 100 billion. How do you deepen trade with these 4 countries in the Francophone region?
Yeah, thank you so much, Adetunji. I think it's as I reflected earlier, we have a long way to go. We have a long way to go. When the OAU was formed on that year, the 63, the May 25th, 1963, the reason is now the spirit of Pan-Africanism to emerge and to transit to the African Renaissance. So this was like the roadmap to say. Fortunately or unfortunately, and also probably I should say that because of the colonial legacies, even though we are politically independent, we were not economically independent. Of course, the politics also somehow, I should say, compromised not to be homegrown one. So it's always the imported one. And you know what imported politics and imported economics means. We may say the globe is dealing with the same parameters of economics and politics, but when it is not the homegrown means continental grown, then it will have so many hassles, so many bottlenecks to move forward. So the OAU vision and subsequently Pan-Africanism vision, I should say, and I should think positively, now the current AU mechanism, which as I said earlier, with the Agenda 2063, I should say those programs, those projects, those intentions are now put in place. Now the next step forward is to make sure those flagship programs are translated into action. So the first test is the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, area, which we have to really work towards that. There is issues of silencing the guns. There are several of those which are very, very critical. So I should say we have that path, but we have to follow that path, and that was what I was even pleading, that Afrospace and your own colleagues, even in my discussion for the first time last time, if we can come up through your own colleagues and institutions like yourself, like Afrospace, to influence the continent through the media, through your reach outs, in such a way that people will stick on the roadmap. roadmap of liberalizing themselves toward this identity, toward this solidarity, toward this sovereignty, and also toward this African challenge, basically to be resolved by African solutions. Whenever you have a challenge, or whenever you have a problem, if you are looking a solution from somewhere else, for a continental problem, if you are looking at a solution from out of the continent, I don't think that solution will be sustainable. I don't think that solution will be trusted. So there are hiccups, I know, but at the same time, my Prime Minister has a philosophy which brought for all of us, and I'll say that and then I'll stop. There are several good things that happen. Then we have to get those several good things on board. There are several bad things that happen, and we have to rectify those bad things. And as we stand today, those good things and rectified ones, and also today's reality of the continent, and also watching and design forward, now we can move forward. This is what we call inclusiveness, reconciling, and creating our unity. Unity is strength, as always has been said. So I think one message which I should like to get across in these months, as Adetunji you said, in these months, in this year, probably one thing which is very, very much needed is the unity within the member states, and also the trust and respect to your own organizations, like Africa Union, African organs, and citizens being known in their own continent as continental citizens. In fact, this is one of the, I think one of the platforms that are also envisaged within the African continental free trade area as well. So if we can bring those elements as a good inputs and rectify some of the issues which we were discussing, then Africa definitely can move forward, and we can move forward, and we can, as my friend from Ivory Coast mentioned, we can create what we call African miracle. And there is no any reason not to achieve those, provided that through yourself and through our leadership, if we can create an accountability of our leadership and what they are trying to achieve and where they are leading the whole continent. Thank you. Back to you.
Okay, all right,
Thank
Ambassador. Just very briefly, Ambassador. The final question we'll ask you is: we can't let you go without talking about one of the greatest successes of Ethiopia, which is the airline, Ethiopia Airlines, which has successfully established 125 destinations and has become the largest airline in Africa in terms of passengers, in terms of destinations served, the fleet size, as well as the revenue. It's something that we would like you to talk about very briefly. What advice would you give other African nations in terms of how they also can build up their airlines in the way that Ethiopia Airlines has been built up?
Thank you so much, Naisha. Again, I will be very brief. I think there is one big move by the African Union. This is what we call the Single African Air Travel Market, which helps the continent to work together. And the Ethiopian also collaborating with 5 other countries, in fact, 5 local airlines, is basically sharing the resources, management, and leadership. So my advice is, you know, if there is any project, it would be a Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, or the Ethiopian Airlines, or the Inga project, or whatever. If it is a big project, then it's not only given to that member state. It's an African project as well. That's how we can start to think in Pan-African framework and to span to say. So my advice would be, if the airliners in these different countries, if they can come together, if they can share experiences, if they can even put themselves in what you call in shareholder frameworks, then it's a reason for them to be successful. You know, we shouldn't, we know from the what you call the investments, all the big investments globally, they are the results of joint ventures. Why in Africa we don't create the same joint ventures of any, you know, one may have a comparative advantage in something else. I'm sure everyone has something to contribute. We know the Boeing, which was, you know, flying here and there, is created by what we call 6 million pieces of it coming together. If the continent could bring its own various contributions together, then we will excel globally. Today, the competition is a global competition. Member states competing among and within themselves with very small things, they cannot, there is no way they can succeed. So my advice and experience from the Ethiopian Airlines and what is currently happening with 5 other countries, which I'm very much happy on. Chad is also on that engagement, which is Zambia is on that very much engagement. Mozambique, the same. And Togo is also partnering with Ethiopian so that they can really create what you call a joint venture that makes them what you call plausible for the market and also successful in the market as well. So my advice is let them come to create what you call a joint ventures, bring their whatever they have together, then they can be successful but in their own and also successful in global market as well. Thank you so much again. I'm leaving you alone to air out. We will be shortly, Katash, as I promised last time. We will be celebrating it. Now, Ethiopia is known for its tourism brand is called the Land of Origins. Our calendar is also one of the unique opportunity for all of you to enjoy. And one important thing which I'll bring to yourself this morning is if you happen to travel to Addis Ababa, Adetunji and Naisha and my brothers here, what you will get is you will be 7 to 8 years younger than who you are today. Now, everyone wants to be younger these days. So, but the only way you can do is travel there. And this is also a place where our like 3.2 million years old Lucy, which is called the cradle of a human being, is discovered. So it's like traveling back to your ancestors' land, and you can definitely claim this is also where you are belong to. We have a coffee which we brought to the globe, has a big aroma, entertaining itself, and also help us to be creative as well, which all of us, all of you are, of course, when the corona is over, rest assured I will be inviting you to my embassy to enjoy a little bit of those. We are also a source of Blue Nile, which service and which has to serve the whole population in Egypt, Sudan, and Ethiopia, which we are working on it on various negotiation points. So we feel the continent has so many things to serve us, but we have to maximize through African platform as an African family and continental family. Again, Afrospace, thank you so much for bringing all of us together. I'll be happy at any given time to be with you, and also make sure you will create the African larger forum among yourselves so that such platforms will be able to influence our leadership and also the way we think and we guide things as well. Thank you so much, Naisha. Back to you.
Thank you very much. Now, Dr. Laurence Ndong, you are from Gabon, even though you're in Paris, and what I found interesting about Gabon, I was reading a little bit about Gabon. You guys have had, even though you may have had presidents that have been in office for longer than average in Africa, but you've had stability. And in Africa, stability, if I remember what Kofi Annan said, he said that there will be no sustainable development without peace and security, and there will be no peace and security without sustainable development. So Gabon, at least, is a symbol of peace. No African country is perfect, but today, this month is your independence on the 17th. And so the question, Dr. Laurence Ndong from Gabon, is how do you celebrate your Independence Day in Gabon?
Would you kindly unmute Dr. Laurence?
Okay. Thank you, Adetoje. But before response to your questions, I just want to say that the stability of Gabon is just in appearance. You know, stability is not conflict, war with guns. Because we don't have war with guns, it doesn't mean that we are in peace. That's what I want to say. You know, Gabon is not in peace. In Gabon, Gabon is the 5th largest oil producer in sub-Saharan Africa, the 2nd largest producer of wood in Africa, the 1st producer of manganese in the world, and is classified among upper middle income countries such as China, Brazil, Serbia, and Turkey. But in Gabon, 70% of the population live in poverty. 70%. Among these 70%, 30% live under the line of poverty. Since the independence in 1916, August the 17th, Gabon has had just 3 presidents. Mr. Leomba, 1916 to 1967, Bongo Ndimba Omar, 1967 to 2009, 42 years. Rose Francine Rogombe, from June to October 29, because 2009, because she was the president of the transition. I want to, sometimes we forget this woman, but she's the first woman president in Gabon, even it was the transition. And since October 29 until now, 2020, we have Bongo Ondimba Ali, the son of the president who stayed in charge 42 years. So since 52 years, we have the same family at the head of the state in Gabon. And it is not a secret for no one that governance in Gabon is plagued by lack of vision from their leaders, mismanagement, corruption, misappropriation, and massive embezzlement. And the stability we see in Gabon is just in appearance, because in Gabon, you can manifest. Every manifestation is reproved by the regime. We have politicians in jail because of their opinion. Gabon is a dictatorship. And what is mean stability when the country regress? You know, in the last decade, I want to say you, Gabon is just 1.5 million inhabitants, just 1.5 million. And average annual budget is $5,000 billion. And in the last decade, Gabon accumulated $52 billion budget in the last decade without any social progress. No school built, no hospital, no university, no roads, no infrastructure, nothing. This is the ambassador was talking about we are talking about trade in Africa. We have to be unit. You know, how our countries can be units together when within the countries we have no unity. How to unite between countries when even within the countries there are conflicts. We know that in Africa, in most of the countries in Africa, colonization has given way to dictatorship that are often attributed to the former colonial power. But this is no way excuses these regimes in the hands of the natives who oppress their own compatriots and plunder their countries. You know, Gabon is most of the richest country in the world in terms of natural resources, but its population is one of the poorest because it is unfortunately one of the countries most plundered by its leaders. And since 2 years, Bongo Ondimba is sick. He had a heart attack, but they still keep him at the head of the country because they don't want to leave the power. This is the problem we have in Gabon. For the Independence Day,
Sorry, just because of time and because we have other guests who are going to speak. So I think Yash is just going to ask you the next question, and we're going to move to Cote d'Ivoire, and then we'll move to Chad, okay, because we have, just for the sake of time. But what we definitely do as Afrospace is to give you a special interview to help us unpack the opportunities and the challenges that Gabon faces 60 years after independence. I think that is what Afrospace would like to do.